Jake, obviously not nice to lose a bok in myself this year, but been very nice to bring in World Cup bok in number 6 jersey.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that's sometimes you're lucky, you know. And I say, can't wait to play. I asked him, I said, geez, when last did you play? And he said a couple of weeks ago, he said, I can't wait, coach. You know, so it probably would have been a headache for me anyway to have both of them available. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing to have a World Cup winner who's obviously, as I said, chomping at the bit to play, and having him available. So he hasn't played for a while. So, and with the rotation I spoke about, Quibus, you know, also would have had to change it anyway. So sometimes your hand gets forced. You know, now it's forced that he can't play 2 to 3 weeks. So I can really, you know, spend some time and get Marco on speed.
And Willie, his first week in training.
Yeah, I must say, Quibus, I've probably never had this forum before. I've never coached him. I watched him play at Boland. It's funny, I watched him play with under 19 at Boland. My stepson actually played for Boland, played with him, and I saw him play. And I didn't realize that he was going to end up being what he is. And I read so much social media about, yes, and I can't believe people speak about him like they do. You know, he's been here a week. It feels like he's been here 6 months. You know, he's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, he's like having a coach there. You know, he's very clever. He's unbelievably skillful. I can't wait tomorrow to see how he goes, because I'm sure people will see just the value that he has. You know, and not forgetting, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate this week. Goosen's not available, but they play together at Free State. Yeah. One of the things they can't wait is to play together, because apparently at Free State they were unbelievable together. You know, so I suppose I can use this forum to tell the public, geez, guys, you've got to lack off or slack off on the criticism you're giving. You know, I mean, he's probably, you know, as I said, if not one of the best players that's played rugby for the Boks, and if he's not the best, I mean, he's definitely one of the cleverest. So, got some great messages from coaches that have coached him before that said to me, yes, you know, what an acquisition. And I've got to say to you, Quib, it's unbelievable. I mean, as I said, 1 week, it almost feels like, you know, at the World Cup, he sent me messages. Can you send me the plays? Can you send me the stuff? Can you send me the defensive stuff? Can you? And I mean, as I said, 1 week, it feels like he's been here the whole season.
Jake, talking about public sentiment, I know.
Sorry, Logan, if you can just unmute, please. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, Nathan. As mentioned, we will come back to you guys online once we are done with the guys who are here in physical form. Thank you.
Okay, just quickly say unmuted. Sorry, no, we're saying we're not. No, I'm saying we're not telling that whatever I've just said now, the other media didn't hear.
No.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's important they hear that.
Sure.
Pretty sure they'll probably.
Okay, sorry, because I think it's important, guys. If you get the last question, I think it's important that you write about it too. Thanks.
Otherwise, there's no incentive to be here.
Okay. Sorry.
No worries. Talking about public sentiment, Jake, I know one doesn't want to look too far into the future, but a lot of people will actually ask a guy who is approaching 34, you know, and he's signed a 3-year contract. It was quite actually long, you know, for a guy of his age and stuff. Just sort of like in the back of your mind, what is your management plan? I think a lot of people want to sort of like.
Okay,
know
I suppose
about
I'll answer this by saying the longer he can play, the better.
Yeah.
But just a reminder to people out there, our owners own Bulle.
Yeah.
He's got a house in Val de Vie. So who knows? Maybe he becomes a backline coach in Bulle. You know? I just think, as I said, and I don't want to say that's where he'll end up, because the guy wants to play. But what I'm saying is, it's 10 minutes from Val de Vie to Boland Rugby Stadium. He grew up there. You know, there's a life after rugby for him as well. And I can tell you, having spent 1 week with him, I can understand now why he gets picked week in and week out. You know, I can understand it. I mean, as I said, not only is he professional, not only is he a thinker. You know, his body's still good. I mean, he's still can do everything. He can do everything that other players can do at training. It's not like we have to manage him. And if you look at a guy like Dwayne, who played in the forwards, I mean, he's won a World Cup back to back. A lot of people didn't think he would last as a forward either. He played in the World Cup final, and he literally played in 2. So it just shows you it's possible. And I don't know him well enough yet, but I'm sure that if he knows, I think he's got about 90 tests, so he's got a hell of an incentive to stay fit and healthy. And that's positive for us at the Bulls, because if he keeps looking after himself to get to 100 tests, which I'm sure he'd love to get to, it's going to be a massive boost for us.
Jake, just staying with Willie, there's probably a few questions around what you've just said about the sort of called it accolades of Willie as a player. I remind myself that there were previous coaches that dealt with Jesse Creel as well.
Yeah.
And on the same basis, Jesse Creel being one of those technical, just give me the information, go and rehearse. Are you saying that's more or less the same?
Yeah, although I must be, it'll be unfair because I never coached.
Yes.
But what I can do is I say the one thing I have picked up is whether it was Zane Kirshner who played fullback, or Percy Montgomery who played fullback, or Willie le Roux plays fullback. It's almost like when you get the 15 jersey, it's a free for all by the bloggers to nail you, you know. And I mean, they did the same with Monty when Monty, and so I can talk about that because I coached Monty. People booed Monty and said, "What about Monty?" But when he kicked 31 kicks in the World Cup out of 33 over the poles, and he won a World Cup, and and he achieved what he did achieve, then people probably realize what coaches see. And I know that, I'm talking out of school here, but I know that the Springbok coaches rate Willie really highly. So much so that they, like your question is, will he last along? The fact that they've looking after him pony-wise for the X amount of years shows the value they see in him. And so, yeah, I mean, as I said, Simon, difficult about Jesse because I haven't coached him. I have heard that feedback. But the one thing I have picked up is there are certain players who just certainly get targeted more. And Willie's one of those. And I think I'd like to use this forum. In 1 week, I can tell you, I can't believe that people don't see what he can do on a rugby field. Because it's as I said, in 1 week, I mean, it's like having a coach run there. It's like having an extra coach standing on the field, the way that he understands it, the way that he communicates it. And I've heard this many times before he got here. Kanan, Kirkley, those guys said it's unbelievable to play with him. So hopefully that'll be another sort of catalyst in his development or his addition to our squad.
Just a follow up on that. You referred to the international players that are back. Obviously, they come off a tremendous high.
Yes.
I suppose that there's no extra motivation necessary to slot into the URC, albeit that it's a total different competition. There's no comparison whatsoever.
Look, I mean, that's always, I mean, I like to use myself as well, Simon. I mean, coaching URC when I've won a World Cup and I've coached the Springboks, whatever, I think if you love rugby and you appreciate what you do, and I get the sense that they can't wait to get back on the rugby field, and that's always a nice thing. They've achieved, and we're all very proud of them. But if you look at the Saracens team, for argument's sake, 1 week after they finished with England, they actually begged the Saracen coach they wanted to play rugby, and that's what we're trying to instill here as well. Is that, obviously that's another debate for another time. Is when we bring our players back and how we manage them. But to have them here, and as I said before the press conference, Mark who's saying I can't wait, is a wonderful thing for a team because that bubbles over into the other guys. So it's and Kanan Moody, I look at him today, I mean, he's an unbelievable player, I've told you that. But Stedman Gans looks like a different player because all of a sudden Kanan's on the bench. Now that's a wonderful thing to have because he knows what Kanan can do, and all it does, it just elevates everyone in the squad. Sergio Peterson's not sure if Kanan's a wing or centre. So it's a wonderful thing for us.
Jake, just in terms of, this is where, I mean, even if it's a bit contentious and stuff, this is also where the ban of, or the suspension now of Marshall, this is also where long-term planning's fruits start picking up, because not only do you have, like Kobus mentioned, you have Marku back now, but you also have a ready-made captain now in Ruan who's had a season, on his own actually to extent. So all those interconnected dots that sometimes feel a bit, disjointed for certain detractors or whatever, it actually now really comes into play.
What I'm going to say is thank you. Thank you that you understand, because that's exactly the point. Sometimes the dots don't tally up to people. But now today, for argument's sake, if I told you a year ago, I said it to my coaching staff today, if I told you a year ago, Goosen's out with concussion, Marcel suspended, Grobbies has done his hamstring, Cameron Anacom's got a niggling injury, and the fifth guy is, who's the fifth guy that's not playing this weekend, that played last weekend? I'm just trying to get my numbers right. So Cameron's out, Grobbies is out, Marcel's out, Goosen's out, and there's one other guy, I can't on the top of my head. Ruan for Mark. If you had said that to me a year ago, I'd be sitting here panicking. I'd be going, geez, today, what am I going to do? 5 changes, what do I do? But a year later, all the hard work and the efforts you put in and the blooding of guys, Reinhard Ludwig, for argument's sake, as a youngster now coming in, the bottom line is I feel a lot more confident that the way the process has worked out that you spot on. I mean, it's and I said it in week one. One area that I felt I had to be a bit more flexible and more risk friendly was not sticking with the same guys, because as much as you get security out of that and you feel comfortable, it's probably not a good sign for the other players. Now, we played Cardiff, so I remind myself this, we played Cardiff a couple of weeks ago. Marcel didn't play. Nokia was on the bench. I mean, there's not many times I would have done that, taken both captains, made Nazam captain. We ended up getting an away win on tour. I mean, it's massive.
Jake, with the Springboks coming back and with the depth that you have already in the squad without the Springboks, with your recruitment in the off season, how tempting was it for you to hold them all for one more week and unleash them in that big game against the Sharks?
There's two reasons why. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There's two things, and I don't want to talk politics or whatever, and I don't want to talk about policy. I wasn't sure that if I give them another week off, I necessarily gain going forward by the time they have off later. And I'm saying that from the point of there's an obligatory time they need off. I wasn't sure, and I still don't know whether it works or doesn't work. So, for argument's sake, if I didn't play them for the next 6 weeks, when the Boks are off later on, can I then use them? I wasn't sure about that. So, saying that, let's just say I wouldn't have gained. So that's why I thought we put them in. And the second thing is, if they're going to play well against the Sharks next week, which is obviously going to have to happen, I need to put them on the field. I don't think it would have been fair for them to run out next week against the Sharks. And I got to stress with that doesn't mean I'm thinking about the Sharks, because we still got to get this Connacht game under the belt. So I had all those thoughts in my mind. Is it worth leaving them out longer? From a playing point of view, is it worth longer by getting them later on in the season? I suppose it is the time for me to say this to you. I think we need to re-look at the Boks having off and playing, and I'll tell you why I say that. I think, for argument's sake, if you've got a guy, just using a name, if Henry Emmelman, who had an injury the other day, can't play, and Kainan comes back from the World Cup with Kirtley, I think the union should be in the position to decide whether you need him now and give him off some other time. I think what's happened now, which doesn't help us, it's almost like they say he's off. So if I use an analogy, it's like your daughter saying, "Can I go out?" and you say no, and she says, "My mom said I can go." Well, then you don't need dad. And so I think we've got to get to a point where the unions, because I think that builds a relation with your player as well. So I'll give you an example. If I use Kainan for the next, he's been off now, but let's just say I played him one game after he came back, and I used him for 4 weeks, and then I decide I want to give him 3 weeks off now to have Christmas with his family. I think you get a lot more out of him if you're the dad that makes that decision. But that, again, as I said, I don't really want to. But now that you asked the question about should you give them off or should you play them, I think it's something going forward that we have to look at. Maybe in a World Cup year it's different. I understand that, but in any other year, I think we need to look at that.
And then just looking at the Connacht side, we'll be coming on a high with the result from the last weekend.
Of course.
Where do you see the game being won or lost? Where are their strengths, and where would you look to suppress them and exert yourselves in them?
Yeah, look, let's be honest. I mean, they're a good team. They're not. I mean, you don't go to Durban and beat Durban. Beat Sharks there, especially after you've just flown back from. And they lost with a drop kick to Edinburgh as well. So they're definitely one of the form teams of the tournament. Scott Fardy, who I coached at Brumbies, is now their defence coach. And I saw what he said. He played Super Rugby for the Brumbies when I was coaching him, and he knows how hard it is or difficult it is to win it in South Africa. So the amount of confidence they would have got last week in getting a result like that in Durban is going to be massive. So, we've got to. I just think we've got to play as well as we have to play. That's the only thing my message is. We've got to concentrate on what we have to do. I mean, they're a good team, but I don't think we must get sucked into worrying about them. I think we need to worry about our own performance, especially after last week not getting a result against Edinburgh.
I just have one more, Jake. It's perhaps a bit more indirect to you guys, but I mean, there's a lot of people hoping that you guys break the duck. Do you think the local game needs to be, concerned that it's 0 out of 6 against Irish opponents to date?
Yes. Let me give you an example. If we could have a fixture next week against the Sharks where the two teams have Erke Snyman, Andre Pollard, Jesse Creel, Ivan van Sail, Trevor Nyankani, and I'm just using Bulls grass to play for the Bulls, and then you give all the guys who left the Sharks to play for the Sharks, you'll have 50,000 people here. Just like when Leinster play Munster over Christmas. And I think we must never forget that. So, and you've heard me say it many times, and I'm not going to change, we need to bring those guys back to play in front of. So when you play, we played Edinburgh last week, they had 12 Scottish internationals, current Scottish internationals, and they had Mata who played in the World Cup for Fiji. So that's 13 players that played Test rugby in the last 12 months. Now, that's what we should have here. We should have a team tomorrow where I have Trevor Nyankani playing here, I have Erkia Snyman, Jason Jenkins, Henro Liebenberg at Leicester. They were all here. Ivan van Sale, Jesse Creel, Andre Pollard. Can you imagine what I'm saying to you? Is that then you can compare apples with apples. It's very difficult to compare, the way it is now. So from a franchise coaching point of view, do we need to do more? Definitely. We need to bring those guys back. We need to find a way in this cycle where we can grow our domestic game and the depth of our players. Some will say, and I need to stress, some will say, well, then you won't produce guys like Ruan Nokia. Well, where did Ergia come from? And where did Louis Bianca come from? And where did they just didn't pop out of anywhere? I mean, they also had to come through that system.
Those guys played under Dwayne.
Well, that's the point I'm saying, because they came, they didn't just fall out of heaven. They came. So what I'm trying to say to you is, why would we allow Ergia and Louis and all those guys to give all those skills to other countries and other teams when they could be giving it to Ruan Nokia? Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard that debate about, but they wouldn't have opened the door for other guys. Well, we're not here to open the door for everyone. We're here to win tournaments and have the best players playing.
Just hitching on that, what you've said, it's probably a safe argument, and it must make you as a coach happy to have the Matanzimas here and all the old stalwarts that become stalwarts. They were young and fresh guys when you arrived here, and now they're becoming your.
Simon, I know what you're going to say, but I want to stress this, and it's important. But it counts for nothing if at the end of the season they leave and go to an overseas club.
Sure.
Because all it means is I've then paid the school fees for them to go and play for a big club in Europe and earn money. And as I said, we don't want to be the academy for overseas clubs. We want to be able to, I want to run out of here with 15 Springboks and play in a derby game over Christmas with 15 Springboks and maybe 5 on the bench. And I want to be able to rotate and put another 5 guys that are Springboks in a game here in the Champions Cup or in the URC. You understand? I don't want to, and I'm not for 1 minute saying, but I don't think every year, I've got to be careful how I word it. Kane and Moody, Cameron Hannekom, Jan Hendrik Wessels, unbelievable players, but I don't need 20 of them. I need only a few of them. That's the challenge we have. And I'm wearing a Bulls cap, and I'm saying that from the point of view. If I wear my Bulls cap, that's what we got to do. We got to pick the best players to play in this franchise. The owners that own my club want to see it as well. We want. I mean, think about it again. I'm repeating. When I tell you, I get so excited. Imagine Jason Jenkins, Ergia Snyman, and Ruan Nokia on the bench tomorrow. Imagine Ivan van Sale starting for us and Ambrose Papier on the bench, both Springboks. Imagine Andre Pollard playing tomorrow and Goosen's injured, but it doesn't matter. I've got the World Cup winning Flav playing. And next week when I give Pollard off, Goosen plays. I mean, that is how top teams, and whether you're comparing Liverpool or Man United or Barcelona, or that's how they operate. And we as in the Bulls and the owners and the club, that's where we want to get to.
And I suppose, just as final, I suppose that's also where, and you and I have had that discussion with the juniors coming through the system. You can only take so many juniors, albeit that they are the best.
100%.
Yeah.
And again, I throw the caveat in there. We don't Bulle.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've got another avenue where the Francois Kroppers, and I'm using his example, or the Bernard van der Lindes who are not playing here, can play there. So there is an avenue, and I'm talking selfishly for the Bulls, where we can have the Ergias and the Louis and the Pollards, but we can still groom the next generation of Bulls players.
Thanks.
Happy?
Yep.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Nathan, you can kick us off. Thank you.
I think Percy had his hand up before mine.
Okay. Nathan, you can go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lunga. Please let me know when to stop. Jake, what are you realistically expecting from the Bokke players during this weekend's fixture?
I suppose the one thing comes to mind, just energy. I mean, just energy and excitement. I mean, I went with them yesterday to our Vodacom sponsor. Went with them to share their excitement and their medals with our major sponsor, and I could sense that they can't wait to play. So yeah, I just want them to come back to do the thing they enjoy the most, and that's play rugby. And that's what I sense. They can't wait to get on the field. And so I suppose a little bit for me, it's just about holding the reins and let them go and do what they do best.
Just one more. I'm assuming other questions have been asked, obviously, around the suspension. But Jake, apologies, I know this question is a bit outdated, but are you satisfied how the tour up north went for your side? Some vital points, especially if we consider the log standings for playoffs. I know it is a bit early to speak about the playoffs, but how valuable were the away points?
Well, I mean, I think the win rate away from home now, or for any team, is about you've got a 35% chance of winning an away game. So, I mean, that's just across the board, and that's for the last couple of seasons as well, you will see. So it shows you how tough it is to win away games. And so, I mean, am I happy? I mean, I'm happy that we got some points out of it. We had a hell of a chance in the last line out against Ulster to score and get 3 points out of that game, because it would have been a fourth try and less than 7. So that's probably 2 points that got away from us there. And then we got a card in the last game. So it's not ideal, but, you know, we've played 5 games now, and 4 of them we've been away from home. So, you know, we have probably out of the draw had I wouldn't say the toughest, but in terms of the draw, one of the toughest to start with 4 out of your first 5 games away from home.
Thanks, Nathan. Percy?
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Jake. Jake, ik heb langlangs met je Afrikaans gepraat, so kom ons begin met Afrikaanse klasse as ons kan, meneer. Meneer Wan, ek het 2 vragies. Net kortliks, wat is jou denkwyse agter jou span, veral met, soos jy in Engels genoem het, om van 'n ervare Springbokke in jou groep te hê vir die volgende deel van die kompetisie?
Okay, so Percy, kom ek stel dit so, deel van die kering hierdie week is beserings en skorsings. So Marcel is geskors, Roan van Maat is beseer, Cameron Hannekom is beseer, Goosen is beseer, en wie is die laaste, en Grobbies is beseer. So eintlik, jy weet, ek moes hierdie week in elk geval verandering gemaak het, maar ek het dit gesê vroegtydig, hierdie seisoen wil ek graag meer spelers gebruik, en ek wil meer my span elke week verander. So ek sou dit in elk geval gedoen het, en die feit dat ek hierdie week Marco kry terug van 'n wêreldbeker af in Marcel se plek is vir my 'n groot bate. Die tweede ding is, jy weet, ek het net vir almal gesê, die energie wat hulle gaan gee is ongelooflik. Ek kan sien hulle wil net speel, en as jy Willie en Marco en Kynan op die veld sit en hulle wil net speel, dan beteken dit baie vir ons. So ja, ek dink vir my die wagwoord hierdie week is energie. Ek kan nie wag om daai wêreldbekers op die veld te kry nie.
Voor de vrouw Marcel, kan ik wel vragen, wat bring je ervaren ons soos Willie vir jou? En omdat jy 'n Springbok as 'n wêreldbeker wenner is, beteken dit dat jy outomaties in die beginspan instap in geval van Kynan Wood?
Nee, dit beteken glad nie dat jy net instap. I mean, dis 'n coach se besluit om hy, hoe kan ek sê, daai kombinasies te probeer. En op hierdie stadium is daar mense wat ek dink, as jy almal gelyktydig in die span sit, dan sal ek dink te veel veranderings. So ek het nou, jy weet, 'n week om 'n paar veranderings wat ek moes gemaak het, maak, en ek wil nie dan nog veranderings maak nie as ek nie hoef dit te maak nie. So ja, Percy, ek hoop dit maak sin. Dis nie 'n kwessie van iemand moet speel of as jy terugkom moet jy begin nie en daai ensovoorts nie. Dis net hierdie week is dit wat ek dink die beste is vir die groep. En ek moet besluit wat is die beste vir die span om teen Connacht te speel.
En laastens coach, hoe groot van 'n terugslag is dit om 'n leier soos Marcel Kotse te verloor, en aanvaar jy as die direkteur dan die lot wat van Marcel nou, hy sit nou 2 weke of 3 weke buite aksie vir hulle?
Ja, so eerstens, ek dink as jy die recording kry, gaan jy 'n beter gevoel kry van wat my denke is oor jy weet oor die span, my kering, die verandering van die span, die kapteinskap ensovoorts. Ek dink as jy daai recording kry, sal jy baie beter gevoel kry van, because al die vrae is geantwoord vroeg in die interview.
In Afrikaans moet dit?
Dis alles gedoen in my interview. Ja, ek sport Percy. Is maar moeilik om, al wat ek vir jou sê is, jy weet, dit is 'n teleurstelling om ons kaptein te verloor, maar onthou vir hierdie jaar het ek baie tyd ingesit met Roan Nokia as 'n kaptein, Nazam was kaptein, so 3 weke terug teen Cardiff. So wat ek bedoel is ek dink ons is ten minste gecover, nie net met posisies nie, maar met kapteinskap ook.
Thank you, Percy.
Dankie Percy. Ashfaq?
How's it, Jake?
You must be sick because you asked the last question. Usually you ask the first question. Okay.
Just on myself quickly, I know you probably answered a lot there, but I mean, after the game you were thinking you're going to follow the process and you'll actually get off, but now you're sitting with a 3-week suspension.
Yeah.
How does that make sense?
Yeah, I must think, Ashfaq, I must say to you that I went to the hearing. I wanted to see how it all pans out. I didn't obviously get involved in it, but I wanted to see. And if you think about it, and you're probably never going to expect the coach to say what he's going to say to you now, but it would be a hell of a difficult for them to find him innocent if the referee made that call with the TMO, because all it says is they then don't back the referee. And to be fair, they got to back the referee first, surely. So yeah, I mean, I having sat in that thing and watched, I realized that it is highly unlikely that unless, I think it's highly unlikely they ever go against what the referee felt, because the referee was on the field, the TMO was there. It's interesting enough, I was talking to the media now, and Simon showed me something about the bunker system and the debate about the bunker system at the World Cup. I mean, even there where they got a bunker system and a guy coming in and a second guy looking at it and 8 minutes to make a decision, some feel it was still wrong. So, I mean, here's another example. Here's a coach saying, well, if they have 2 guys doing it with 2 video screens and 8 minutes and they still don't get it right, what are the chances of a ref doing it live in front of an audience, getting it spot on every time anyway, Ashfaq? So, it isn't ideal, but it is the nature of what we have to cope with.
And then just quickly on the game, I mean, you said now you had injuries, so you forced into some changes, but that looks like a nice running team and up tempo. That is what we've been trying to do, and being back at home on a good pitch as well. So yourself.
Exactly, Ashfaq. I mean, I'm not too afraid of the fact that we got good athletes playing. I mean, Nazam's a good athlete. Reinhard Ludwig's a good athlete, could probably play loose forward as a lock. We've got Kane and Moody on the bench. Got Willie le Roux at fullback. And we got, as I said, Marku in place of Marcel. I mean, and he's a World Cup winner who's played at that position for many times for the Bulls as well. So it is a nice team. It's a nice balanced team. And it'll be playing at altitude, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it's 36 degrees tomorrow. So yeah, hopefully, as I said to you earlier, hopefully that selection and that combination will be good enough to get a result tomorrow.
Just finally, giving the extra week off?
No, yeah, Curtly, it's got a family bereavement, and he's not available for this weekend. So, but I'm hoping that counts in his favour, that when I need to use him later on next year, it counts as 4 weeks off.
Mr. Williams with the final question, please.
Hi Jake, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, here in Galway we're not down, but we'll be covering the match tomorrow. I'm just wondering, the temperature issue is obviously going to be there for Connacht, but this used to be the off-season for rugby in South Africa. I mean, how much of a challenge is it to the Bulls players to play in 36 degrees? It's not normal.
No, I mean, look, it's not like it's the ideal rugby conditions. I mean, for anybody. I mean, we didn't play rugby in the middle of summer for many years, for that exact reason. But I suppose, like anything, William, advantages are both ways. When we played Galway in the blistering wind and the rain, I suppose the reality is people that grow up playing in those conditions are probably more suited for that, you know. And I think, you know, last week we were in Edinburgh and it was like minus something, and you know, and so I suppose the bottom line is it's not going to be ideal, but we're probably hoping that it's more suited for us in that we're used to it more. That's all. I don't think it's ideal rugby conditions. The other thing which we must take into account, William, is tomorrow there's water breaks and there's opportunities to slow the game up, and I'm talking about from a not from a tactical point of view. I'm talking about from a rehydration point of view. So, you know, I think it does level things out as well. There's no ways that when we play in Edinburgh or Galway that we get a chance to drink a cup of tea after 10 minutes, get warm, and play against you guys as well. So, yeah, it is a leveler when it is hot, and the lawmakers allow it to be a sort of, how can I put it to you, a sort of an opportunity for teams not to get too warm.
Just looking at the game, Connacht have won 4 out of 5. They had a scrappy old win in Durban last week. Have you changed your perspective on them at all from what you might have thought before the season? What are you expecting from them tomorrow? The Bulls took care of them last season pretty well at Loftus, but they are playing maybe a little bit better this season.
Yeah, look, William, I think, you know, obviously know Andy Friend well as well, so I don't know if they're playing better. I think they've changed a bit, and their style's a little bit different. I think they got, as I said, Scott Fardy came in as a defensive coach, and he would have had a lot of intellectual property he would have got from Leinster in his time there. But they're a difficult team to beat, William. I mean, I remember when we played them 3 times now, and as much as you say we beat them last year, I remember for a long period of that game it was difficult to get on top of them. You know? So, and they beat us by playing, you know, really direct rugby 2 years ago in Connacht. So, I mean, you saw what they did against the Sharks. When they get close to the try line, they're very good at keeping the ball and building pressure. So, yeah, the nice thing about it is I think they've got a combination of what they got right 2 years ago, and they've added to their game in terms of something else. So they're not, and that's why I think they'll take a lot of confidence. As you know, winning in Durban last week, losing with a drop kick in literally on the hooter at Edinburgh, just shows how much confidence that group has. And considering they don't have Bundy Aki and Mac Hansen here, that's really not a bad place to be as a group.
And just finally on the World Cup win, obviously we lost interest in the World Cup here at the quarter-final stage, but well done to South Africa. What has that done for rugby in South Africa from an overview point of view, do you think?
Well, look, I can speak from experience, William, that after 2007, you know, everyone knows your name, and everyone knows what you've done, and you know, and it's quite funny. Some people think I won it this time again, you know. So I think it's I've got to remind them I wasn't at the World Cup this time. Just shows you those memories have been reignited by the community and by people in South Africa, and you can never underestimate that. You can never underestimate the value it does to people in our country. I mean, I watched yesterday walking with those 4 World Cup winners into our sponsor, and every person that was in that store wanted a selfie or a photograph of the players with their medal. So I've got no doubt that must have a positive impact on the game and on the image of the game in South Africa, and must be a positive thing for the young players as well, because I mean, a guy like Kane and Moody, I watched him yesterday at this thing. He's 20 years old. He's got a World Cup medal around his neck. You know, his life's changed significantly in 1 year. He's become a World Cup winner that's now a Bulls player, and he's loving life. So hopefully that has a massive boost for us. And I'm talking specifically as the Bulls, but I'm sure it will do for every province.